Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brothers and sisters, your brother Imran ibn Mansur, aka Dawah man, alongside Abu Bakr and Guled. So this is the comeback episode of the show called Chillin with my Axe. We're starting our first episode with our lessons, reflections, just things that we took away from our recent Umrah trip to Saudi Arabia, which we just got back from last week. Now I have to let you guys know that there was a general rule that we had, which was whatever happens in Saudi stays in Saudi. Because there was some stuff that took place. And when you travel with people, you get to see them in a different light. And there was a whole group of us, there was like 9 of us that went, yeah. For obvious reasons, you can see a lot of them probably didn't want to be on camera today. Because like I said, some stuff happened. But we're making an exception just for you guys, inshallah ta'ala, okay? So before I pass it on to Brother Abu Bakr to start with some key lessons and things that he took away, I'm going to sincerely and humbly request you guys to please click the subscribe button, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brothers and sisters. Hope you guys are well, inshallah. Before I get into my benefit, my point, I just want to mention one quick story from the beginning of our Umrah trip, which I think, it was one of those things that should have stayed in Saudi, but I'm not going to let Imran get away with it, man. So we landed in Jeddah after a long flight. We went to Jordan first, stopped there for 2 hours, got ihramed up. Then we went to Jeddah, went to a brother's house, ate, no sleep at all. Then we were on the way to Mecca now. And we were looking to get there around Dhuhr time. And as you know, Dhuhr in Saudi Arabia is extremely hot. And we had just travelled a very long journey. So we were discussing, whether or not to do Umrah straight away, or whether we should go back to the hotel, relax a little bit and go back later on. Now, a lot of people don't actually know that you can actually, rest first and then go. They think as soon as you land in Mecca, you have to go straight away. As long as you can maintain your ihram, you can postpone it, rest, and then go after. So we're on the way now, and we're discussing, and our teacher was saying to us with his experience and his hikmah and his wisdom that we're very tired. My personal advice to you guys would be let's rest, get our energy back, and then let's go Umrah. It's very, very demanding physically and mentally, and spiritually. But obviously, as you guys know, brother Imran ibn Mansur, aka Dawah man, aka Drama man, as some guys, recently named him, he likes to get very, very gassed and very, very, animated. So he came in straight away, like, nah, how can you say that? The Sahabas, when they did Umrah, they did it in the scorching heat. They didn't have tiles. They didn't have fans. They did it they were sweating. They put their blood, sweat and tears into this religion. How can we not do it the way they didn't do it? And he's trying to get everyone riled up to the point of one brother sitting at the front. He turned around and goes, yeah, you know what? Let's do it. I want to tell my kids that we did the Umrah the way the Sahaba did Umrah. In my head, I just started imagining, how the Sahaba used to do it, how they used to struggle, and it's like a proper motivational, like Hollywood movie scene. And next thing you know, he's like, yeah, we're going to go. Everyone's going, Labbaik Allahumma labbaik, Labbaik Allahumma labbaik. So basically, everyone's riled up now. We're almost there now. We went to the hotel, dropped our bags off, and we said, you know what, we're going to go. So obviously, like a scene from a movie, we're all walking out now, walking towards the Kaaba. We get there and the adhan for Dhuhr goes off, so we have to pray Dhuhr first. So I remember, we went there, inside the Haram, we prayed our Dhuhr, and that's the first time, straight after we prayed Janazah Salah, and so I turned around and I went back to the brothers. All I see is like 10 zombies just like standing there. Everyone's like this. Imran, I don't know if it was you, Imran, or someone else, but I think it was you, innit? Man, just there going, you man. Let's go to the hotel, man. I feel dizzy. I feel tired.
Well, that wasn't me.
That was you.
That was me.
Alright, it wasn't you. I all remember, but you looked out of it. You looked out of it.
You missed out a key thing. When we was on the car, the reason why these guys have an issue with me is because I took a nap in the car. And then they're like, oh, look, he was the one who was gassed and he's the one first when he fell asleep. Obviously, I took a nap. I'm going to take a nap before I go do Umrah. No, that's what happened. But the brother who was like, I want to tell my kids about this. I'm not going to beat his name because like I said, what happens in Saudi, stays in Saudi. He was like, I want to tell my kids about this. Come on, guys. Allah was the first one who turned on and said, brothers, you know what? I'm not going to lie. I think it's a bit hot still. Let's go. No, but the point is that I'm not going to lie. In my head, yeah, even me, I was very happy when the brothers decided that, you know, let's do it when the sun goes down. And we did. But wallah, you know, serious thing though, yeah. A lesson that we all took away from that is that we're not men like the Sahaba were, man. We're not even men like the women were more men than us. The Sahabiyat, the female Sahaba, they were more men than us. Like, wallah, they traveled in that scorching heat over mountains. And to be honest, wallah, bro, it was peak. Yeah, but for them, that was like happy days, man. But yeah, that was the thing. But inshallah, let's be serious now.
Inshallah, you're still quite gassed. But okay, so building up from part of the story, where I mentioned that, you know, after the Dhuhr Salah, there was a Janazah Salah. Now, obviously, I don't know about you guys. Me, it was my first ever time going to do Umrah. My first time in Saudi, in fact. So when everyone stood up after the Dhuhr Salah, I was a bit confused. What's going on? Why is everyone standing up again? I heard Allahu Akbar. I asked my brother. He said, it's Janazah Salah. I was like, okay, cool. So you prayed our Janazah Salah. And then for the next prayer again, there was Janazah Salah. So I was like, what's going on? Like, why is there Janazah Salah? And he goes, no, like, after pretty much every single prayer, there's a Janazah Salah. Now, I don't know about you guys, but me personally, I haven't actually prayed that many Janazah Salahs here. In fact, I most definitely have prayed more Janazah Salahs in Saudi than I have here in my whole life. So in those 12 days, you know, I prayed more Janazah Salahs than I have here in my whole life. And that just got me thinking over there, you know, 5 times a day you get a constant reminder of death. You know, that could have been you, that could have been someone in your family. So that for me personally was a real wake-up call. Because over here, I don't really reflect upon death as much as I should. You know, we've got uni life, we've got family life, you know, we've got brotherly, we've got classes going on. So many different distractions of the dunya. But over there, it was just different, you know, because obviously the adhan goes off in the hotel. We go to the masjid 5 times a day, you know. And yeah, for me, that was really powerful, man. That was really powerful. And the fact that, you know, sometimes they would announce it was a kid. Sometimes it would be a whole family. In Makkah and Medina, you know. And it just goes to show, no, death doesn't discriminate. And to be honest, the same thing happens here. People die all the time. It's just we don't hear about it. We don't feel it because, you know, we're not in the masjids, or the masjids don't do the janazahs as often as they do there. So yeah, man, for me personally, that would be my point of benefit. I mean, I didn't actually get to go to any of the burial sites or anything like that, which I wish I did. But you know, it was quite difficult to get into them. But yeah, man, for me, that would definitely be it, man. The fact that death is always there, and Saudi served as a good reminder of that. Jazakallah.
So I also remember I was speaking to our brother Abu Bakr Islam because he had his own Umrah group that he was with brother John Fontaine, and we linked up in Medina outside the Prophet's masjid, and we sat down. I remember he was telling me and another brother, he was saying, you know, one of the most amazing experiences here is to follow the body after the janazah prayer into the graveyard where the Sahaba are buried, because that's where they bury everyone now, right? Me personally, I didn't get the chance because there's so much rush and everything, and you got to be at the front. But you went to the graveyard twice, right? Yeah. So, akhi, like, what did you benefit from that?
Alhamdulillah, I managed to go twice. Yeah, first time was by myself after Fajr Salah, and the second time was took 2 other brothers that went with me. And the first time when I went, so basically I went. I prayed, basically. I positioned myself because I wanted to go. So what happens is there's a door. So when I come out, basically I would just go straight and I would just take a left and the graveyard would be there. So when I would come out, the grave of the Prophet was to my right. And then keep going left is where you'll find the graveyard. So I remember when I finished Salah, I came out. And then I remember I saw a group of people. It was, subhanAllah, it was strange. Like literally, as soon as Assalamu alaikum, they would get up and then they would start facing towards the grave of the Prophet ﷺ, start putting their hands up. I was like, whoa, what what is going on here. Like they'll just stand up,
They were praying to the
after Salah, just face that way towards the grave. I'm thinking, man, subhanallah. And this was just one time. This was like regular, man. Like some people were doing that. But that's when I saw it. Like my first time, I was like, subhanallah, I was amazed. So I kept it moving, and then I followed the bodies. And then what happens when we got there? We went to bury. It was two bodies, so they was burying them separately. I remember one of the bodies I was there, and I was quite close in it. So when they were digging and stuff like that, I just managed to put some stuff in and whatnot. And I remember when the body was going in, and it went in. Subhanallah, the way it's done is so simple. It's so like amazing. Like it's just so simple. The person's laid down. There's a perfect spot for them on their right side to get laid, and then they put like everything was just, and it was done like that. And I remember when it was being done, there were certain people, and this is one thing I realized when we've been there in Mecca and Medina, is that one thing that we was trying to do is like our phones and whatnot. We try to not use it as much and just be away and just worship and focus. And I remember when we was at the graveyard, there's people bringing out their phones. The guys just taking pictures, literally like that. And one of the people just like to him, like, come on, like I have been like, come on, like just he just went like that. He went to him. The guy still carries on, and our people video recording and whatnot. And I'm thinking, subhanallah, like at a time like this, you're recording and taking pictures, yeah, when you're supposed to be reflecting and like it's such a critical moment where now this person is going to be questioned. And even I remember in Mecca, there was people. I remember one guy, he was FaceTiming while he's doing his Umrah. Like he's going around, he's doing 7 times. The whole time he's keeping up his phone. Like, and I'm thinking, how are you supposed to focus? Like he's got his family on the other side, they're all watching him, and he's just his whole Dawah and everything, he's just FaceTiming. And then another guy, I remember I saw, he gives the camera to his friend, and the Kaaba's behind him, and basically he faces towards his friend and the camera, and he goes like that, puts his hand out like he's making Dawah. And I remember there was a woman, I specifically remember this. I was walking out, I was leaving, and then what happened was there's like a table of mushafs, like a bookshelf and whatnot. She picked up the mushaf, went like that, and her friend took a picture and she put it straight back. So I realized like the phone was destroying people's ability to focus on the moment and take it in of what's really going on, where they're at, and what who they're doing it for, and all of these things. So that thing was like I was just shocked. I was like, wow, man. And then while I was there, what happened was I wanted to go around because there's many companions that are buried there, and so I just took my own time, walked around, just went. It's very big, very big. And so I went to a quiet place. I just wanted to reflect and think for myself. And I remember as I was going around, I was seeing certain people like crowded around certain graves because they thought it was a grave of a companion. Some people have maps and stuff like that, claiming that if you go to this place, this is where so and so was buried, and if you go to this place, this is where. But no one really knows. So I remember there was people crowded around it, like making dua. Some people picking up the dust from that area, and then they'll try to, I don't know, seek blessings from it and try to take it. I don't know what they were doing. And the thing is, they're all trying to do this under like discreetly, because if they get caught or no, they'd probably get kicked out. And in my head, I was so shocked because some of the people that were doing it were people like old age. Like if this guy sneezed, he might die. Like that's how old I'm talking. And in my head, I'm thinking like, never once did you think to yourself that this dust, what's it really gonna do for you? And the person in there, his opportunities have gone, and you're still here alive, and able to increase in your deeds and to do like I was just shocked and amazed. It was just it was simple. Like this dust, why am I taking it for? So in my head, I was just like, I was shocked to see certain things like that, and it was just made me reflect and the benefit of knowledge and knowing what you're doing in worship, and not just doing it based on emotion, what you think, and just have evidence for what you're doing and following the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that's what I've really benefited in that.
So I actually remember, because obviously remember we was on the plane and I put up that video on Snapchat and Instagram saying I'm going somewhere, I'm gonna it's best a surprise and I'll show you a lot and you guys can follow me and everything. So obviously that was on the plane before we was going to Umrah, innit? And I was intending to do the same thing, to show people, obviously after the Umrah, here's the Kaaba. I thought it would be like a motivational kind of inspirational thing, showing people this is the Umrah trip, here's Medina, but exactly, man, I remember when we was doing our Umrah and we started to do a Tawaf, I was really, really hurt, man, by the amount of phones that were out in it. I'm like, this is like the most holiest place in the world. It's the house of Allah. And like, you're doing Tawaf. Like, you may never get a chance to do this ever again. And we know that every action is pillars for its acceptance is your intentions, your sincerity, and obeying and following the Prophet's sunnah and how he did that action. Akhi, there's no sincerity if you're Snapchatting your Umrah. There's no sincerity. Like how is it sincerity that you're updating? Guys, look at me, I'm in Umrah. Do you see what I'm saying? So that put me off, and that's why I know I got some messages from people saying worried, like they're like, Imran, where are you? Like last time we heard was you're going to some country. A week and a half later, we ain't seen you on Snapchat. Are you like, where are you? Like, are you something like going on? Where are you? Are you safe? Are you okay? I was okay. I just wanted to turn my phone off, man. That's why you didn't see me snap there. Because I just wanted to make sure I don't get caught in that trap. Because it's very easy to be like, I'm just trying to inspire, motivate people. Put the people to the side for a second. You yourself, like, don't be that light that shines to brighten up the room for everyone else, but in the process, you burn yourself out. I didn't want to be that light that burns myself out and don't make use of my own Umrah experience. So that was one thing I learned, is just to echo into what Ghuled's saying. This phone stuff is mad. It really is, man. When you go, try and just connect with Allah. Don't make it a thing where you're just trying to show the world, that you're here. Isn't it sufficient that Allah is a witness and His angels are a witness that you're there? Anyways, the other thing I want to mention is, of course, I don't want to talk too much about the actual Umrah experience because Umrah is amazing as always, it's spiritual, uplifts you, going to the house of Allah, praying at the Kaaba, that's all amazing, that's between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But what I do want to mention is some things that I saw just in my time there, yeah? And I'm basically going to add on to what Guled said. So I remember the first day we were going to pray for Salatul Fajr. It's an amazing experience when you're in your room and then you hear one of the most beautiful adhans you've ever heard in your life. And you walk out and you see the masjid where the house of Allah is, and people are like flies from every direction. They're flocking into the masjid. It's not a small masjid. It's the biggest masjid in the world. From every direction, people are flocking in like flies. We're talking 45 minutes before the salah is even going to start. And it's just a powerful experience. Like, this is what we were created for. This is what we were made for, innit? Now, obviously, that really was really nice because, the Ummah is suffering. And the Ummah is humiliated and we're in a state of fear. And we learn, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وعد الله الذين آمنوا منكم وعملوا الصالحات لا يستخلفنهم في الأرض كما استخلف الذين من قبلهم. Allah says, I make a promise to those who believe and do righteous actions that I will give you authority on the earth. I'll protect you. I will take the fear that you have away from you and give you safety. But there's a condition. يعبدونني ولا تشركون بي شيئا. Worship me alone and don't do no shirk. So obviously you see people coming to worship Allah Fajr time, you're like, wow. And you're excited thinking that victory for the Muslims is close. But then that smile soon got wiped off my face when after the Fajr Salah I went to the Kaaba. Obviously when you go to the Kaaba, you don't do tawaf just during the Umrah. You can do tawaf any other time because it's an action of worship that you only get to do in Mecca, so where the Kaaba is. So you should try and do that, more of that than other things, because that's specific to that place. So I'm doing it. And, I think it was like on my 4th circumambulation of the Kaaba, I said, let me go touch the black stone. Now, the reason we touch the black stone is for no reason except for the fact that the Prophet did it. We don't believe the black stone is going to give us some magic powers. We don't believe the black stone is going to answer our prayers. We don't believe just because we touch the black stone, we're going to pass our exams or we're going to find a wife or have a kid. No, those are things that only Allah can do. We follow the Prophet ﷺ. Like when Umar radiallahu anh kissed the black stone, he said, Wallahi, I would not have done this if it wasn't for the fact that I saw the Prophet ﷺ do this to you. So when I went there, and it was just weird because the closer I was getting to the Kaaba, the closer I was getting to the most holiest place on the world, the more I was seeing of bad things. Now we all know sins are divided into 3 categories. You have major sins, then you have bid'ah, which is things that oppose the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Then you have shirk, which goes against tawheed, the very essence of why you and I were created, which is to worship Allah alone. Shirk means to worship other than Allah. And it was shocking because I saw brothers and sisters a bit too close. Not that they were doing anything inappropriate, but brothers are pushing sisters, sisters are pushing brothers. And I got pushed a few times by women, and I was like, this is getting a bit big, yeah? So I moved into an area near to the black stone, waiting my turn. I was in the queue, but there was like a 360-degree space around me. I made sure so no one can push me. One sister came, she could have gone all around me and just boom, she pushes me like that. And that really put me off, man, because I remember the Prophet ﷺ, he said, I would rather have an iron rod, an iron nail rammed through my head than to touch a woman who is haram for me. So in my head, I'm thinking touching the black stone is big. It's a sunnah, right? But I can't do that at the expense of haram. So I didn't touch it. I moved away because that made me feel very uncomfortable. But then there were some other things that I saw. Because if it was just a major sin, that would be bad enough. But it was worse. I saw a lot of bid'ah there. Bid'ah meaning, we know that there are only 2 sides of the Kaaba that can be touched. The 2 sides that are pointing towards Yemen. One of them is where the black stone is. The hadith of Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anh, when he told Muawiyah radiallahu anh, only 2 sides are touched. Because that's the example of the Prophet ﷺ. We follow him. People were like going up to the other sides of the Kaaba, hugging it, holding it, crying. It was legitimately as if they felt like the Kaaba was going to answer their dua. Like it was proper weird. It's proper weird, Like they're coming to the Kaaba and they're not making use of it how it's supposed to be. You can't go to the Kaaba and do what you want to do. We do what the Prophet ﷺ told us to do. وَأَشْهَدُ أَنَّ مُحَمَّدٍ عَبْدُهُ وَرَسُولُهُ. We follow him. He's our messenger. We testified. But it got worse than that. Next thing I know, I looked to my right. I'm telling you, I'm right by the Kaaba. I'm right there. There's a group of sisters from some country, covered head to toe properly, jilbab and everything. And they say, Ya Rasulullah, Ya Rasulullah. And they're making dua to the Prophet ﷺ. Now that's bad. That's shirk to call on anyone other than Allah. Remember, the Prophet ﷺ said, don't do to me what the Christians did to Isa alayhi salam, to Jesus. They raised him above his level of a prophet to a God. They pray to Jesus. We pray only to Allah. Ibadah is only for Allah. And the Prophet said, Ad-du'a huwa al-ibadah. Dua is ibadah. They're making dua to the Prophet ﷺ. Ya Rasulullah. And I'm thinking to myself, that's wrong. But you usually expect to see that in Medina where the Prophet's grave is, right? Actually, it's the Kaaba, it's the house of Allah. And they were doing it. And there was other things, like Salah time came and the men and women were like standing next to each other, shoulder to shoulder. Not that was the case everywhere. That was very minimal, but it's still a big thing. You're praying Salah and men and women are not allowed to stand next to each other. You're not. I remember one point I was struggling to find a row at the back of the masjid to pray in because it was just every row was broken up by free mixing. And we went to the Prophet's grave. When we went to Masjid Nabawi, I remember, you go, it's good manners. The only places you're allowed to travel to are the masjids. Specifically, Masjid Al-Haram in Mecca, Masjid Nabawi, which is also Haram from the Haramain in Medina. Masjid al-Aqsa in Jerusalem. They're the only 3 places you're allowed to travel for religious reasons. But when you go to travel for the masjid in Medina, it's very bad manners to not say salam to the Prophet ﷺ. So we go to the grave and we say salam to him, and we send salam to Abu Bakr and Umar radiyallahu anhuma. And we saw something very, very disturbing. The brothers saw a person praying salah to the Prophet's grave, namaz. And it's amazing because the Kaaba is in front of you, the grave is there. They've put their back to the Kaaba and they're praying to the Prophet. His grave, they're making sajda to his grave. Sajda is kufr in and within itself. A person who does sajda to other than Allah leaves Islam on the spot. Of course, there's things that need to be uplifted from him, but the point, that's the general rule. You'll come to the second most holiest place in the world and you've not understood what's holy about it. This is the second most holiest place in the world where every salah is worth 1,000 hasanat. 1,000, right? I'm like, you just forget. You could have prayed 1 salah and earned 1,000 rewards in Masjid Nabawi, but you nullified your whole Islam because you prayed towards the Prophet's grave. There's people making dua to the Prophet's grave and many other things. I'm not saying this to make you guys feel really down like the ummah is over, because the one who says the ummah is destroyed is obviously the one who there's no khair in that person. That person is destroyed. We're not saying the ummah's got no good in it. It has, no doubt, it does. But that was just really upsetting to see, man, because these are like the 2 most holy places in the world. If you're not gonna find holiness there, being unreligious is not just going to the club. It's not just smoking weed. In fact, these are lesser forms of being unreligious. The greatest form of being unreligious is to divert that which is for Allah, worship, and give it to anyone other than Allah. Whether you give it to a prophet, to a statue, to a grave, it's all the same. Worship is for Allah alone. Then the second worst thing that you can do is bid'ah, which is to oppose the Prophet ﷺ. We worship Allah how he did. We don't add to what the Prophet did. We're not less than it. And it was just sad because that the greatest sins you could do, worse than going to the club. We saw them there. And this is just, if the ummah, you get a true reflection. If any, the lesson that I took away from this was that if someone wants to see why the ummah is suffering, then you see it at the Kaaba or the Prophet's grave. If you want to see why the ummah is humiliated and why blood is cheap, the Muslim blood is cheap and whatnot, go to the Kaaba and the Prophet's grave. You'll see you'll see it there. Because Allah told us, if He's going to give us victory and honor if we worship Him alone, the opposite is also true. If we do shirk, He's not going to give us no victory. Instead of honoring us, He's going to humiliate us. And there are many evidences, and I've discussed this in many other videos, that our sins are directly connected to the affairs of the ummah, specifically the issue of shirk and bid'ah. If we come with it, we're going to be destroyed. If shirk and bid'ah is happening at the Kaaba, like at the time of the Quraysh and the Prophet's grace, I no wonder why we're suffering. So I just took that back as a motivation, to educate more people on the Tawheed and the Sunnah and everything. So I guess we end.
One point to add to your point that you just made. One other thing that I realized as well, building upon your point, a lot of people have a lot of things to say about Saudi. Saudi's this, Saudi's that. And of course, we don't agree with 100% of things, that happen in Saudi, Saudi do, etc. But one thing you got to give to them, though, they are people of Tawheed, man. Like, for example, at the Prophet's grave, there's people standing there, guards. And I remember one time when I was walking past, and there's a guy, I genuinely thought he was praying salah, because his hands were the fingers were a bit too low, they're below his belly button. And then one of the guys came up to him and said, no, if you want to do dua, this way, And the guy was like, oh yeah, etc. And that time we went to Uhud, and it was salah time, but obviously because we're travellers, we'd already prayed. So the guy said, no, don't go to the graves, they won't help you at all. And Saad said, no, don't worry, we're people of Tawheed, we're just going for ziyarah, we just want to see it. So, a lot of people say a lot of bad things about Saudi, but one thing I'll give to them, alhamdulillah, compared to other countries, there's not that much shirk there. So yeah, that's just one thing I want to add to that point that you just made about, shirk and bid'ah and all that.
Jazakallah khair. So, thank you for everyone contributing. I guess we'll end on this. Again, echoing on something that Brother Guled said. Knowledge is something that always precedes actions. If you go to Imam al-Bukhari in his Sahih, you find Kitab al-Ilm, which is the third book, I believe, in his Sahih. He has a chapter which is knowledge precedes action. You're going to Umrah, you're doing an action. You pray Salah, you're doing an action, right? You give charity, you're doing an action. You make dua, you're doing an action. These are all actions that you and I do. We're supposed to worship Allah by means of actions, right? Well, Imam Bukhari said, you cannot do that action unless you have knowledge before it. There is a knowledge that you and I need to have before the action comes. Then he brought the ayah from Surah Muhammad, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَعْلَمْ, have knowledge of what? أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ, have knowledge that there is no one worthy to be worshipped in truth except Allah. Allah said, you see that statement? Allah didn't just say it to memorize it. Allah said, have knowledge of it. That one statement for which the whole universe was created, for why the Prophet was sent, for why the Quran came down, for why paradise and hellfire were made, for why your parents were made, by means of which they gave birth to you with the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. La ilaha illallah. It's not just a statement. That whole statement is in every ayah of the Quran. Every ayah of the Quran, every hadith of the Prophet ﷺ goes back to La ilaha illallah. And we don't know much about it. And we need to study it. And Allah said, fa'lam, no. Then after that, Allah told us to perform an action, which is to ask for forgiveness. So Imam Bukhari uses this as an evidence to say, look, before asking forgiveness, Allah said, have knowledge of La ilaha illallah. Let alone when you're worshipping Him. So whenever you do an action of worship, brothers and sisters, do you have the knowledge that's required of Allah before you do that action? The knowledge that's required of the Sunnah to do that action. Because you see, if you really knew La ilaha illallah, not you, but the people, they would never ever be praying to the graves. They would never be going to the Kaaba thinking it can give them something when it can only be from Allah. You see, it's that lack of knowledge. They would never be doing that bid'ah if they knew the Sunnah. You see? So knowledge is very important. One can do action all day. All day. But if I give you a cup of water and it's got 1% urine in it, 99% water, are you going to drink that? No. So imagine that's like your action. Your action. You may have sincerity, 50% of your action sincerity, but 50% opposes the Sunnah. That's 50% urine in your action. Or the other way around, you may have 50% Sunnah, but there's no intentions. You're intending not Allah, you're intending the grave who you're worshipping. Again, 50% urine. It's not going to be accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you have to have knowledge. And for that reason, I would just, invite you guys, as I always do, invite you guys to, join us on our online educational experience. Our program, which is called the Muslim Survival Guide. It's a program made specifically, the title says what it is. It's a Muslim survival guide in terms of knowledge. It's a guide that teaches you how to survive as a Muslim. It doesn't teach you how to be the absolutely amazing, fantastic Muslim. It teaches you just how to survive. And you know what you'll find is when you go into that program, you'll realize that the overwhelming majority of the Muslims are not even surviving. They don't even know the basics. Wallahi, the basics. So a lot of brothers and sisters, they come into the program, they're like, wallahi, we thought we knew Islam, we had no idea what Islam was. And I put this program together, and we are all part of the team who work on it, and our efforts and our intention, aim and objective has always been just to teach people that which they need to know that helps them survive. It's at the comfort from your own home. You can do that, inshallah. You don't have to go to a masjid, even though that's better. Everything, authentic sources, whatnot. So please check out the website below, muslimsurvivalguide.com, and please take the time out, inshallah, to study Islam. Okay? Where you're doing lots of actions, you're praying. But how much knowledge do you have before that action? Which is what Allah commanded us. So muslimsurvivalguide.com, share the video, like the video. I got a bit long for the Q&As, inshallah. We'll have to, let you guys down with that one. But inshallah, in the next episode, we'll do the Q&As. Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.